back again, and we hopefully will have Melissa join us from New York in next little while. She normally comes on between 10 and 10:30. She prepares for her day in New York, but remember that she gets out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning just to join us, and always looks as fresh as a daisy. So we are not too harsh if she's a bit late, and we're not terribly harsh if she doesn't turn up at all, because we do understand. But anyway, that is Melissa, and we've just had David Lennon from Dublin, an old war correspondent and a colleague of Stuart's. Unfortunately, the broadband let us down a little bit, but it wasn't ours this time, I'm happy to say. In fact, not ours at all. We it takes a little bit of time, doesn't it, to get our act together, particularly at the end of a very hard week. And I have to confess that actually running all this stuff on my own is a bit more difficult than I thought, because if something goes wrong, I don't have the time to fix it. And quite often I don't know how, and I don't have anybody to ask. So you just have to put up with this being a bit rough around the edges for a couple of weeks. But we are here. We're hanging in there, and that's the important thing. That is the important thing. And now, we before Melissa comes on, we'll try and show you a couple of things that are of, I think, great interest for us. There we go. We can hopefully find stuff, and that's not going to find it for us. This, but we have stuff tucked away here, and the first thing I'm going to do is actually show you what we couldn't show you in that first hour. And because it is important for you to stay up to date with this. Well, there we are. That's the weather for you. To recap, that's gusty winds and a light drizzle, which is not in evidence at the moment, and the temperature reaching about 8. Although right now, at this very moment in time, at 10:10 on the morning of Friday, the 10th of March, it is still only 4 degrees, not climbing terribly quickly. Okay, now we are anticipating having Melissa Conti on, as usual, on a Friday morning. And while we're waiting, we have been looking back in the week. We've been looking back at some of the stuff that we used to do. And it's of interest to us, and I hope it's an interest to you. That one of the things that we are going to do is to show you a tall tale in the moment. And journalists are famous for tall tales. But let's see if we can find one or two other things that may be of interest. There was there was one, yeah, and now it's not there, and it never is. That's when we go hunting for things, and we hope that we start to get things right eventually. And I have no idea what's in this
To Mirador.
for hour. So rather than take the chance of showing you something we shouldn't, is we better I think just cool it on that front if we can get rid of it. Well, we don't seem to be able to just at the moment. So there we go. That's the way to do it. So there are a number of things that we can discover. I come across the thing that says invite guests. Well, we have invited our guest this morning, Melissa, and hopefully she will join us. So now we'll push the little button that shows us what else we might possibly have, and it's not always great stuff to have, but it's the stuff in the past is okay. And there's no reason why we shouldn't play some of this. Let's see if we can sort out here. The song says compile, and I've got a feeling that it's a combination of some of the promotions that we did in the past. It's not going to hurt to try it. This is an experimental week. Hang on. So we'll.
When you've missed the train, don't despair. Have a nice cup of coffee. And perhaps a mince pie. At the Runaway on Lewis Station. After that, why worry about the next train? The Runaway on Lewis Station. Relaxation beyond compare.
Well, small though we may be, the power of television is enormous. And it's amazing what we get into our emails each day. Hundreds of people who tune in. And we have no idea. We have no idea at all because the algorithms, or whatever the hell they're called, don't necessarily pick up everywhere that we go. But oh well, as we're not a bad lot, and we're showing you some things that we've done in the past. I'm not sure what else we may have here. Right, okay. I don't know that we really want to sit in promotions because we didn't do a lot. The railways is, well, we could show that, I suppose, but I'm not sure that you would really be that interested in this. Let's see. The Swiss trains, perhaps not. Now, the typical and the Tall Tales episode 1. Now that's what I think we'll do, because we have a reputation for telling tall tales on some we've formalized. Is whether you believe everything that you hear is entirely up to you. But here is Tall Tales, episode number 1.
2018, when I set off for Canada. It was a long way to go. It goes on 5,000 to 6,000 miles, all on my own, and a real adventure. And the first year was pretty good. I spent the 2 semesters as required at the university, and then I got a job for the summer. And I went out into the Rocky Mountains between 2 small communities, at least in those days they were small communities, called Revelstoke and Golden. Wild, it was wild. And my job was to help build the Trans-Canada Highway between those 2 points, because there was no road there. The only way in was by rail, a train that had been built many, many years, almost a century before. Well, not the train itself, but the tracks. And I remember on that first journey, getting off the train at a place called Stony Creek. I thought I was at the ends of the earth. It was raining. There was mud and streams flowing down the mountainside. There was nobody there. And there I stood beside the track, watching my safe train, which only came once a week, disappear into the mountainside. You've no idea how you feel in that first few days. But it was very fortuitous, because I learned a number of things in that space of 2 or 3 months that I worked in the Rocky Mountains. I still got an English haircut. On the odd occasion, I wore my school blazer with the mitre on. It's English. I was English in a Canadian setting. And boy, didn't they know it. And I would go into the bunkhouse, and on one occasion, I reached for the gravy drum, and because the chap had a very heavy accent who was sitting opposite to me and said, "That's not gravy," I didn't understand. So I smiled at him and poured the gravy all over this wonderful meal, to find out that it was chocolate sauce. Chocolate sauce sitting on the table when in fact you've got potatoes and meat in front of you. Oh, that was a learning curve. And the same chap said a little later, he said to one of his companions, "You sure can tell that young fellow is English, can't you? And I thought, well, yeah, I suppose you can. And he said, why do you say that? He said, because he eats his pie with a spoon. Canadians always eat with a fork. What a giveaway. Never mind the blazer, never mind the haircut. But it was that summer that my actual athletic prowess really came out. Because I broke the half-mile record and the high jump record within minutes of each other. And I also, not sure it was a record, but did pretty well in the weightlifting department. That was a few days later. But first of all, it was the half-mile record. When you go to work in these camps, there's not much to do. You work, you sleep, you eat, and after a month or two, you get out and you pick up your check. Very nice it is too. But on a Sunday, no television, no limited books, no newspapers. They would probably come midweek. So you just hung around and it was very boring. Understanding that and needing work done, the camp bosses would say, would you like to earn some more money? As a university student, wow, would I like to earn some more money? And you got time and a half for working on a Sunday. It's rather nice. So this particular Sunday, I was deputed to go up the mountainside and to start digging little potholes to see whether we could hit gravel, stones that they could use to lay on the bed of the road which we were building. So off I trotted, hey-ho, shovel slung over my shoulder, clambered up the mountainside, found a suitable place to start to dig holes, and started to dig away. After a little while, I heard some stones being loosened up on the railway track. I paid no attention at all, because there was a railway gang that lived, yes, they stayed up in a little hut on the railway site. And they, like us, had nothing to do on a Sunday, so they would earn some extra money going out, testing the track, and that sort of thing. That's who I thought it was. I continued to merrily dig away at my hole, hoping that I would hit gravel pretty soon, because it's back-breaking work. And then I looked up to see a huge grizzly bear coming down the mountainside, his beady eyes fixed on me. I hadn't had lunch yet. He was determined to have his lunch, and I was it. I threw the spade down, and I took off down the mountainside. Now I was dressed in work clothes. I had big work boots on. They came way up past my ankles. They got thick soles. They were leather. They were toe-capped with hard stuff, so that if you dropped anything on them, you wouldn't crush your feet. And I took off down the mountainside at a great rate of knots. The spring runoff was still there. Water was still cascading down the mountain. So the mud must have been good 2 or 3 feet deep at some stages. I managed to avoid disappearing into the mud altogether. But at the side of the track, down the mountain I went, lickety-split, determined that this grizzly was not going to have me for lunch that particular day. I came round a bend in the track, and there was a D9 Caterpillar tractor. Now, if you've never been on a construction site and you've never seen a D9 Caterpillar tractor, they are huge. They are huge. And they stand about a story and a half. So if you look at a small house and try to guess that you're looking at just below the bedroom window, that's about the height, 7, 8 feet. The driver said that I did not touch his vehicle. I did not touch the bulldozer in leaping into the seat beside him and clutching him, trembling with fear that this grizzly was going to come around and find that the D9 Caterpillar tractor was no obstacle whatsoever, and he would have double lunch. He'd have both of us. The old Caterpillar driver, the tractor driver, of course, had been around for a long time, and he was killing himself with laughter that I'd come down the mountainside at such a rate. But he swore that I did not touch his vehicle, that I leapt from the ground and I got into the seat beside him. So I'd done 7 feet. And even in those days, the high jump record was only about 6 feet something. So there I had set one record. But I previously set the record for the half mile, because it had been about half a mile that I'd raced down the mountain to get out of the way of the grizzly who wasn't stopping. He was coming after me. and he was determined, as grizzly bears can be, to have me as a meal. So in talking to the driver later and figuring out at what time I actually saw the grizzly, to what time I reached his tractor, we figured that I beat the half-mile record by a good 5 or 6 seconds. So two records in one afternoon. And believe me, when the adrenaline gets going, it's amazing how it pumps you. It's amazing that you can do all sorts of things which you wouldn't do ordinarily. And it was a grizzly that helped me achieve this marvelous record-breaking feat. And afterwards, I felt quite good about it, except, apart from the driver, there was nobody to confirm what I'd done. So I never, ever got a gold medal, a silver medal, or a bronze medal for breaking this record. All I got was a giggle from the driver, and perhaps a little self-satisfaction of knowing that I had been as speedy as I had, even though I was driven by a grizzly bear. And if you say, oh, what was it, a grizzly bear? Yeah, you can tell a grizzly. It's not only his size, but a grizzly, unlike any other bear, has a hump just behind his head. So it is easy to identify. Later on, I learned that black bears you can frighten off a little. The only time to worry about a black bear is if it's got its young with them. It is very protective of its cubs, or if it's ill, in which case it will pay no notice. But I later on managed to control black bears and brown bears with very little problem, bravely waving my hands. But this was my first experience in the wild with a wild animal who was ready to be feral. He wasn't going to take a polite young Englishman who said, I'm terribly sorry to disturb you. Seriously, he wanted me. A few days later, I was working around the camp when the foreman came and said, Keith, go with Joe over there, take this pump and take it up about 100 yards above the camp, because there is a spring there, and later somebody will come and they will attach the pump to the spring and we can have some fresh water. The pump, I don't know, is 80, 90, 100 pounds. It was heavy. Joe grabbed one side of it and I grabbed the other. We could just about manage it, and we went up to the spot designated by the foreman, found the spring, and as I was about to put down, or together we were about to put down this huge pump, I heard a rustle in the trees behind me, and I looked around, and here was this great big teddy bear face gazing through the greenery at me. Now, I suspect this was not a grizzly this time, but it was a brown bear, but I didn't know the difference at the time. And anyway, all I could see was its face, and it was a teddy bear face, and it was looking at me. We'd obviously disturbed the bear when he was looking for various bits of greenery and nuts and so on and so forth to solve his hunger problem, but I didn't know that. I yelled at Joe, "Bear!" and took off back to the camp. I didn't break any speed records, I don't think, but when I got back to the camp, I realized I'd left Joe well behind. But the pump was still in my hand. I'd carried what it took two of us to take up to the spring. I'd brought back on my own because the adrenaline had flown and the fear factor had kicked in. He said that I performed superhuman feats. Well, what an athletic summer that was. And I'm happy to say that as it did go on, I learned a bit more about the wildlife. And although I, to this day, would be very careful about meeting a bear in the wild, generally speaking, unless it's a grizzly, and don't mess with a grizzly, then what you would find is that the other bears are as shy of you as you are of them, and a little arm waving, and you can get rid of them. And actually much later, many years later, I lived on a steelhead trout fishing river in North Vancouver. I had 3 acres and a beautiful house, and it was right at the base of the mountains. I had a Great Dane, which is a wonderful dog, very affectionate, but also very protective. I was fiddling around on the banks of the river one day, and once again I heard a rustle. Didn't pay too much attention. And then I looked up, and here was a huge black bear coming towards me. Well, I'd learned my lesson this time, hadn't I? I raced towards him, yelling, "Bear! Bear!" waving my arms and sort of, "Go away!" Actually, I wasn't as polite as that. I was saying to him, "Push off." And at the same time, yelling to my wife, "Get the dog in, get the dog in," because my fear was that the Great Dane would come rushing out, would protect me. The bear would, with one swipe, break the dog's neck. Bears are terribly powerful animals. But instead, the bear took one look at me when he became aware of me waving my arms, put his nose in the air, sniffed, and sort of said, "You're not worth bothering with," and ambled back into the orchard and paid absolutely no attention. Luckily, my wife had kept the dog in, so both the dog and I were saved on that particular afternoon. But if you really want to be athletic, get yourself into a situation where a grizzly is coming at you, because believe me, the adrenaline will kick in. And if you can possibly record it on your camera, on your phone nowadays, while you're doing that, you can prove that you will beat world records. In my case, the half mile and the high jump, all in a space of a couple of minutes or so. Well, that was my first experience in a summer in Canada, and I had many more, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity to tell you about some of them. Till then, toodle bit.
Me and bears, and I don't just mean the teddy bear that you take to bed with you as a child. As a child, I've still got my teddy bear to take to bed. Have I have. Now, it is time for Beauty and the Beast, and we're going to go to New York as usual at this time each Friday, and here she is, the beautiful Melissa.
Yeah,
Good morning, Melissa.
I'm afraid I'm joining you a little bit in the beastly department there, Keith.
Oh, you're as beautiful as ever.
You're so funny.
A sight for sore eyes, as they say. Lovely to see you.
I was just having before I woke up. I was having. You ever have the strangest dream? You wake up and say, "What happened?" I had a dream that the chairman of our Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, broke his arm and it was hanging. I'm like, what? What did I need that for? Well, I mean, he was speaking this week, and there's the Federal Reserve is supposed to raise rates another 0.5%. Now, it's not that I'm upset about that. I'm not, because I'm a saver. I save money, so the rate, and sometimes the market gets hit. The market gets nervous, but yeah, it's a little crazy out there now. A lot of ups and downs in the market. It's become a bit volatile. So.
Yes, I was asking Stuart about the headline in the Financial Times today was that two companies have abandoned Moscow without any obvious sale of shares or whatever. I was asking him what that was all about. He thinks that the owners of these or the senior management of these companies are worried that they'll be seen as money launderers. War being a favorite time to pass a lot of bad bucks, as it were.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we had what was it, China yesterday? Xi was talking about elevating his armed forces and cautioning the U.S. And we're looking at conflict. I'm like, okay, bring it on, Xi.
Yeah. In fact, what is the general reaction to the fact that Putin yesterday or the day before now, I guess, did send in his jets again and pounded several places in Ukraine, but one being the major nuclear power station, and the papers that reported that said everybody was getting very nervous because what happens if he actually blows it up?
Right, right. Well, you know, I mean, we're really coming very close to confrontation with these countries.
Here's your favorite lady, by the way, comes to say
Yeah,
good morning to you.
It's cold in
Lean in if you're going to talk.
Yeah, we not have spring at all.
Lean in if you're going to talk to Melissa. Yes. There you go.
Yeah, it's cold in
Nina.
England. Yeah, very cold. I like warm. Yeah, not spring at all. What breakfast?
She
for
brought
you?
my breakfast.
Yeah. See you later, yeah?
Yes, indeed. This program has got nothing if not characters.
She's such a nice lady. When I met her when I was there, she's so sweet.
Oh, she's a character and a half. Yes, we didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought, but you were saying.
Oh gosh, that train just went off the tracks because I don't remember. What was I saying?
Well, we were talking about the militancy that is being shown by China, and then we talked about the fact that the nuclear power station has been hit about 7 times now, and some of the experts are saying, hey, we're getting, if they hit it one more time, we've got a dangerous situation on our hands. I wondered if there was any sort of reaction to that in the States.
Nothing that we've seen diplomatically or, in the government. A lot of times they're not going to really say very much, but there's definitely action going on. So essentially where we are, in fact, fighting a proxy war with Russia. And this gives us an opportunity, the United States anyway, and the UK, to logistically position ourselves. The United States is so far away from everything. So this is a logistics practice for us militarily. And, we're building up our strength over in the South Pacific as well. So over in the Asian area, Asian theater. I guess they used to call it the Pacific theater. I guess it'll be called the Asian theater this time. Yeah, we seem like we're teetering toward war. I don't know.
Yes. Now war makes a lot of money for a few, but is very costly for any country. There was some suggestion from an expert earlier in the week that the Chinese are lowering the expectations of their economy to only 5% growth. Now, is that an indication that they are less likely to go to war simply because they're not going to have the money?
No, I think they're building right now. I think they're building up now. The expectation is that they were going to attack Taiwan in 2027. So they do need time. They need time to build up. And of course, we need time to position ourselves. So they can continue their build up, but we're going to be continuing our build up as well. So to what end? I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. I really don't know what
No.
they're thinking.
And they always talk about the inscrutable Chinese. So it's a good chance that nobody knows what they're thinking.
I don't think they know. I don't think they know. I think it's a pride issue, and they're just beating their chests. That's it. And they're going to just demolish their economy and kill maybe millions of people for what?
Yeah, yeah.
For what?
That is always the problem with a system of governance where you haven't got anybody saying, "Hey, have you thought out what's going to happen if you pursue this?"
Guaranteed that the leaders of our country, including Parliament or whatever, all their communist leaders were out in the front lines. There wouldn't be any wars. There wouldn't be any wars. They're just a bunch of cowards. You think Xi's going to be out there in the front lines? No. You think Putin's out there in the front lines? Yeah,
No.
coward. You had to get me started, Keith. You had to get me started.
Well, I like to get you started because, strangely enough, I get emails that a number of my old colleagues from Russia Today do actually tap into this program from time to time. So it may well be that the message will go back to Moscow and even get to the Kremlin. Is what the Americans are thinking because Melissa said so.
Good. You know what? I know he's got his judo expertise, but I'm in karate as well, and I've got many black belts to back me up. So come on, let's go. Let's go, Vlad. Vlad, come on over, Vlad.
I'm damn sure I didn't try to wrestle you now.
You know what? It's interesting. I also have a network of black belts all around London. So, yes, because we have schools in London.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, to be quite
associated with our dojo, with our with headquarters.
Yeah. And nowadays the international trade at a much lower level than gets reported is so strong that sometimes you think perhaps it is the little guy, the little business, the little industrialist who is going to actually be more influential in a war, or say so a war, than the great big FTSE 100 or the Dow. How many do you have on the Dow?
Dow 30, and then we've got
Dow
the 500 on the S&P, which is really, they don't really speak of the Dow as much as they used to. The S&P 500 is much more of an indication.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that is a sign that we are moving more and more towards international digital activity in the markets.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fumbling and stumbling on that. So, the problem is when your CEOs really don't understand it. They don't understand it. They really truly don't. It's the tech guys and the quants, all the guys up in their heads that they're the ones that are coming up. The scammers, the hackers, they're the ones that are coming up with it. So let's have the hackers design our technology.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that they know how to hack to defend their interests.
No, I mean, they're constantly breaches all the time. Not with my company. My company is actually very good on that because I'm the one that handles a lot of those security incidences. My company's very good about that. They're very, very cautious. They're constantly, a lot of the problem is training employees to spot phishing scams and all that other stuff. And so they're constantly sending ridiculous emails and not so ridiculous emails where you may be fooled, but there are certain things to look out for. And oftentimes, if you just don't feel like doing something that's come into your inbox, you can just send it over to the suspicious desk. Because I don't feel like doing that, so I think it's suspicious.
Now, let us talk about one young man who is likely to be active in defense of the realm, if it ever came to that, but who at the moment is reporting for NHK.
Yeah, he actually was on a business trip to San Francisco, and he's come back. He's at Newark International Airport now. He just texted me. Yeah, he's training for the Marines right now. Very intense training, and he wants to be able to, protect the guys on the ground, as he says.
Mm-hmm.
So protect the young, because they're all young men. They're willing to give their lives.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's very commendable.
Yeah, he would be in the air protecting them.
Mm-hmm.
Bombing strategic sites, protecting them from the enemy, which a lot of times didn't happen in World War II. I think I mentioned last week my father was in the Battle of Saipan, and they didn't have any air cover, which is why they sustained so many casualties.
Casualties, yeah.
So, yeah, he'll be. He feels that it's his mission in a way. I'd skip a generation. Mm-hmm. I didn't serve, although I do serve in the Air Force Auxiliary. So
yeah, I mean, you've got a pilot's license, haven't you?
No, I don't. I like the ground. I like the ground. Yeah, I don't like the air. I'm not a bird. I don't have wings. I'm meant to stay on the ground. These are not wings, even though sometimes they may look like them.
What was he doing in Los Angeles?
Oh, he was in San Francisco. I was asking him, what's the assignment? Wait, hang on just a moment, Keith. Hang on a moment.
Mm-hmm.
This is funny. I got something funny to tell you right now. So I plugged in, because my phone is dead. So I go and I plug it in. But I only plugged in one of the parts. And I was wondering why I only have 2% power. Anyway, yeah, clearly I am not awake yet.
Well, that's all right. Much of the conversation we have here is done with me half asleep. And people say, Keith, wake up. And I say, I'm not asleep. I'm not asleep. Where am I?
At least you're not with Jerome Powell trying to help him with his broken arm.
No. Yeah. So you actually don't know what the story was.
I don't know what he was covering. He'll let me know. He said. He let me know.
Right.
Oh, I bought him something very cute. You're gonna like this. So down at our train station, there's a bakery, really good bakery, and so I'll go there in the morning for coffee as I get on the train, and I he brews beer, right, as you know, and so here's what I bought for him.
A clip for a chap.
It's a cookie beer mug. A cookie beer mug.
Oh, wonderful. Hang on. I'm going to.
Oh, where did we go, Keith?
I don't know.
See?
I don't know. We can be heard, but not seen. And let's try to add the stream again.
Back our town.
Beer.
Major Thompson.
No.
And I've got a trilby rather than a bowler hat myself. Tiddle hip.
Where are you, Keith? Looks like I'm all by myself right now. Oh, that's so frightening.
I think I can get.
Oh, there you are, Keith. I was like, oh, now what do I do?
That's the third time I've done that this morning. Is with my great expertise, with a great flourish. I flick to show something, and suddenly it all goes wrong. What I was trying to do was to see a close up of your mug, to put it bluntly, I buggered it.
How about if I just put it a little closer to the camera?
Well, that's one thing that you could do. Yes. There. Ah, yes. There. now that
It's a little cookie beer mug. There you go.
yes, that's lovely. That's
Cheers.
lovely. But does
What was
it
that?
taste like beer if you eat it?
Oh, absolutely delicious. Everything at that bakery is unbelievable. Oh my God.
Ah,
So
specialist
delicious.
baking.
Yeah. It's and beautiful too. Very artistic. The cakes are gorgeous and very delicious. So that's like a sugar cookie. So very good. Very good.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Caramel.
I don't want to miss, because one of the things that you said is that you would like to do what I would call a rant, but because of your background and your expertise, and indeed, I mean, those people who know you know that you're a very caring lady, and that you actually did want to have a few minutes each time that you were on, is um, not worrying, but making suggestions on children who have perhaps got a little problem in terms of perhaps autism or whatever. So here is your chance.
Well, it's interesting because, as you know, I'm studying for my master's degree in disability studies. And I like every week to kind of look at what it is that I've been assigned and maybe discuss it a little bit. And so this week was an interesting discussion. Actually, we have our midterms this week, and I'm a little frantic because of it. So it's a paper I'm writing on why it's important to discuss when you're dealing with any news that has disability involving a disability. It's very important to the reader, that the reader try in some way to understand the embodiment, or understand what it is like to have that particular disability. So not just reporting on, like wheelchair ramps here, or this has been, you know, where a matter's been decided in court that they needed certain access, or they needed to have certain funds for education. It's very important that we understand, we as viewers, we as readers, understand what it is like to be blind, to be deaf, to be in a wheelchair, to have cerebral palsy or Parkinson's disease. What is it like? Because how in the world can policymakers and lawmakers put forth actions, or rules and regulations, if they don't understand what would benefit somebody with a disability? So I think it's very important that in the news, reporters out there, or there are disabled reporters as well. I've been reading some articles on that, it's like, in fact, I have a friend who's blind. And it's funny, I've known him for, how's it been, like almost 40 years now, and I don't even notice that he's blind. Like, I'll say, you see this, Keith? I mean, not Keith,
Yeah.
Steve. You see this, Steve? And he's like, yeah, I'd love to see it. No, but
Yeah.
it's interesting because he was, well, he was for many years a radio announcer. In fact, when I first met him back when I started in radio, he was my music director. And yeah, he just was so amazing. I'd watch him maneuver around all the equipment, and I'm thinking, this guy is not really blind, and he's just fooling everybody. So I would always accuse him of that. But and I asked him one day, I said, recently, and I said, what would it be like? Well, why haven't you actually gone for the surgery? Typical non-disabled person asking this question. Basically asking what, if you had an opportunity to see, would you take the surgery? And I know there are surgeries out there. Have you ever explored that? And basically, what I'm saying basically is, there's something wrong with you and you should fix it, right? And so he said, well, think about this, Melissa. If I were not blind, would I be who I am? Would I have had, like, they gave him a huge retirement party. The county executive declared it Steve Posel Day when he retired from the radio station. The sheriff's office were there. There were hundreds of people there at his retirement party. But because of who he is and how extraordinary he is, I mean, he was valedictorian in high school, valedictorian in college. How do you do that? You can't even see, right? That's my limited view. That's my limited view, right? Because I don't, but because I'm not looking at what it's like, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a fascinating discussion on what it. He says, no, I'm happy with who I am. I'm proud of who I am. If I could see, I wouldn't be me. You know?
What a
So
fascinating approach. I mean, just to your information, last Sunday morning, I took the head staggers, and I thought, I've moaned a little bit this week about not being able to walk properly. So it's about time for me to get back to the point where, with my Parkinson's, I say, bugger off. Leave me alone. I'm getting on with this, and you're not going to do anything to me. So I did about a 4.5 minutes little rant, and I was in touch with the lady from the Parkinson's organization this week, and I thought, because I was saying, bugger off Parkinson's and so on, I'm not sure that the establishment in the Parkinson's organization would approve of my approach to things. But I did actually say to the lady that I deal with in Parkinson's a little bit, and I said, Rosalind, take a look at this. Don't pass it on if you think that it's a bit naughty. But she came back and said, "Oh my God," she said, "it's absolutely terrific." I'm passing it around. But even it was cathartic in the sense that I don't understand sometimes what it means to have Parkinson's. I take so much for granted, and then I go and hammer it. I can't think that I'm typical. So letting my feelings out for 5 minutes was just absolutely terrific. And it would appear that other people, but on top of that, because it was played out on Mirador, is friends and colleagues from Nigeria, from Canada, from Kosovo, and so on, all came back and said, "Oh, this is fantastic." So at least I got the word out. And I think that we forget just how powerful the television, even our small television operation, how powerful it is, and where it gets to, and what it does in sharing. So I am really, really pleased that you are bringing this dimension to us, because you've no idea just what a wonderful story you're able to tell, and how powerful it is for people to hear it.
Yeah, just one more thing that I want to mention, and that is the woman. Her name is Judy Human. She died this week. She was a disability rights activist. She had polio as a child and was wheelchair bound ever since. And she has fought for so much in our country. She was instrumental in getting through the Disabilities Act here. She staged sit-ins in federal buildings. She was also the first wheelchair-bound teacher in New York City. She fought for that as well. She fought for ramps. She fought for all sorts of accommodations for the disabled that would help them to live independent, productive lives. And so to Judy, I thank you in heaven. So a wonderful lady. In fact, I was able to be introduced to her through a program that one of your friends had invited me to. So I was so thrilled just to see her there. I was lucky to have had that opportunity. So
That's terrific. Well, I mean, believe me, I've known you for 30 years. Would you believe?
wow.
And wow, doesn't time fly when you're having fun? I do believe that I met you when I got hair.
Did you have hair? I can't remember. I was tired in the mornings there too.
Yeah. Oh well, the other thing that I think is, I put into this little blog. How do I feel that having worked with you and so on, where millions of people saw us, stuff going out for Reuters, for BBC, and so on, and used to having vast audiences, is how do I feel about this rather small operation, which we're still building our audiences, even to the thousands. And I said, and I suddenly realized, is I do it because I'm passionate about it. Yeah, I get down a bit, and I sometimes think, well, why don't some of you buggers watch us? But the fact is, I believe in it. And last night, I just sort of went onto the internet and just tapped in: what is the future of small scale television? And the fact is that the experts believe that we are going to take a much bigger role over the next 5 to 10 years than we have in the past, because the big boys are actually slowly being dissembled because of Netflix and the streamers and so on and so forth. So I think that we've got to hang in there, because we are going to have more and more influence. And with people like you on board, and to be quite honest with you, we've got some really nice people like Suzanne Musho, Jane Watkins in Hastings, but also Stuart and Rosie Hayes and so on. We've got a good bunch of people who know what they're doing when it comes to broadcasting, and who are equally as committed. What a great bunch of people to belong to.
Yes,
if nothing
absolutely.
more, just a great bunch of people. And we are making our mark.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I always thought that when they would say, "Oh, there's the demise of news, big news networks, the demise of big television shows and comedy shows," and I always thought to myself, "Gosh, that seems impossible to me. How could I possibly get onto YouTube and know what to watch?"
Yeah.
And now I don't watch. Really, honestly, I don't watch television. I just don't. I've gotten to the point where I don't want to be spoon-fed. I want the content I want.
Yeah.
I don't care what the networks think I should be watching. I don't think what the networks think about what news I should be reading. And I do. I only read Associated Press and Reuters, and maybe I might look at the big publications, the Financial Times. I might, I'll take a look at the New York Times. They're so biased. Listen, I always say to myself, watch your adjectives when you're a journalist. Watch your adjectives. You're describing things in your own terms. Be careful. So yeah. But anyway, I think small scale TV, given the fact that local news has been obliterated by the big guys. What did they do? What did they do like 3 or 4 years ago? These hedge funds would buy up the newspaper buildings, kick everybody out. Oh yeah, you're a reporter. You can go to Starbucks and file your story. And now they're left with all this empty commercial real estate. Good for you. Good job. Anyway.
Yeah. Nothing like shooting themselves in the foot.
Right. What they did.
Melissa, it is now, believe it or not, 11:05. As usual, we get talking and we don't realize just how fast the time goes by. So I know that. Are you going into work today?
I'm actually going to work from home because I've been working in the city all week and I'm absolutely exhausted.
Yeah,
I can't even tell you.
Good for you. Now, it is important that when you start work a little later, I'm not going to encourage you to drink now, but have a glass of champagne at your desk and make sure that you get a little sip from time to time. And it's the little bubbles getting up your nose that will inspire you.
Here, I'm going to have this. I'm going to start drinking early now. Cookie beer mug.
Good for you.
I actually only drink non-alcoholic, so non-alcoholic.
We shall see you next week, but I think there are one or two things that are happening that when some people get back home from having decided to go away this week, is that you and I and one or two of the other of the team will have one or two things to talk about. So I shall look forward to talking to you then. And as usual, our huge support for our reporter pilot, and pass on to him that he really has got support. We think he's doing a terrific job.
Very good. Very good. All right, Keith, thank you so much. Have a wonderful week.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right. Well, I hope that we didn't obliterate absolutely everything with my very loose, whatever we call these things, a mouse. But there we are. We to be able to say goodbye, I need to. That's it. I need to have a little flick, and I will. We don't broadcast over the weekend, although last week, as I just said, I actually decided to just do a little piece. I took the head staggers, and who knows, I might just do that this week, because it's sometimes the weekend is when I can have a bit of clear thinking. I don't have to worry about some of the things that I hate about having a small business like this, the administrative things that you have to do. How in hell's name anyone ever gets time to do any creative work? I have no idea. You have to go and look after all the things that the state requires from you. Anyway, that's another story, another day. We will actually see you on Monday morning, and next week we hope that we shall take some things forward that we've been talking about. Things are beginning to generate. We are beginning to get more and more people watching us. We are beginning to get more and more people wanting to help in some way, and we are getting the feel in the marketplace that Mirador is there and is doing a vital role, and that it's being appreciated for it, and that it's worthwhile for us to keep on. So until next Monday, a nice weekend for you. And this is Keith Hayes for the rest of the team saying cheerio and toodle pip.